attempting to define, revise, and redefine these events. Since I only have 7 minutes to speak, I thought it would remind our audience that Congress conducted its own exhaustive investigation into Waco and produced a readily available report in 1996. You can access that online. I testified the first day of those congressional hearings. So I'm going to read from the executive summary of the report just a few key findings, just to remind us what was learned. On page 3, under the subtitle Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the ATF's investigation of the Branch Davidians was grossly incompetent. It lacked the minimum professionalism expected of a major federal law enforcement agency. While the ATF had probable cause to obtain the arrest warrant for David Koresh and the search warrant for the Branch Davidian residence, the affidavit filed in support of the warrants contained an incredible number of false statements. The ATF agents responsible for preparing the affidavits knew or should have known that many of the statements were false. David Koresh could have been arrested outside the Davidian residence. The ATF chose not to arrest Koresh outside the Davidian residence and instead were determined to use a dynamic entry approach. In making this decision, ATF agents exercised extremely poor judgment, made erroneous assumptions, and ignored the foreseeable perils of their course of action. The decision to pursue a military-style raid was made more than 2 months before surveillance, undercover, and infiltration efforts were even begun. The ATF undercover and surveillance operation lacked the minimum professionalism expected of a federal law enforcement agency. Supervisors failed to properly monitor the operation. The ATF's raid plan for February 28th was significantly flawed. The plan was poorly conceived, utilized a high-risk tactical approach when other tactics could have been successfully used, was drafted and commanded by ATF agents who were less qualified than other available agents, and used agents who were not sufficiently trained for the operation. Under the subheading, the Department of Justice. The decision by Attorney General Janet Reno to approve the FBI's plan to end the standoff on April 19th was premature, wrong, and highly irresponsible. The Attorney General knew or should have known that the plan to end the standoff would endanger the lives of the Davidians inside the residence, including the children. The Attorney General knew or should have known that there was little risk to the FBI agents, to society as a whole, and the possibility of a peaceful resolution continued to exist. And then under the subheading, Federal Bureau of Investigation, the CS riot control agent assault on April 19th should not have taken place. The possibility of a negotiated end to the standoff presented by Koresh should have been pursued, even if it had taken several more weeks. The FBI should have sought and accepted more expert advice on the Branch Davidians and their religious views, and more open-minded to the advice of their own FBI experts. FBI Tactical Commander Jeffrey Jamar and senior FBI and justice officials advising the Attorney General knew or should have known that none of the reasons given to end negotiations and go forward with the plan to end the standoff on April 19th had merit. The CS riot control agent is capable of causing immediate, acute, and severe physical distress to pregnant women, the elderly, and those with respiratory conditions. In some cases, severe or extended exposure can lead to incapacitation. Evidence presented to the subcommittees show that the use of CS riot control agent in enclosed spaces, such as the bunker, significantly increased the possibility that lethal levels would be reached, and the possibility of harm significantly increases. And they conclude by saying this: evidence does indicate that the CS insertion into the enclosed bunker at a time when women and children were assembled inside could have been a proximate cause of or directly resulted in some or all of the deaths attributed to asphyxiation and the autopsy reports. Police officers are sworn to protect and serve. They're expected to uphold the rights of the accused, to respect citizens' presumption of innocence, and to treat people with dignity. There are also constitutional protections and legislative guarantees in place in a democratic society designed to restrain police and the use of unnecessary and excessive force. This calamity could have been avoided through better investigative work and planning, and whatever crimes David Corse and others may or may not have committed, this deadly disaster was entirely preventable. Thank you.